Welcome to the Cincinnati-based Art Society March 23rd, 2025 program. I'm Helen Rinsberg, President of the Society. Our program today is Printed Voices from India, Social and Cultural Reflections, SOS Art, and its curated exhibit of Indian prints. Our speaker today is Dr. Saad Ghosn, founder and president of SOS, Save Our Souls Art. It is a Cincinnati-based organization that promotes the use of the arts as a vehicle for peace and justice and for a change toward a better world. Through SOS Art, more than 4,000 local visual artists and more than 700 local poets and performers of all ages and backgrounds have been able to share their voice and their messages for a better world. Saad is a native of Lebanon, a retired medical professional and educator, and Professor Emeritus of Medicine at the University of Cincinnati. He is a publisher, philanthropist, and literary activist, as well as a printmaker with works here in the permanent collection of the Cincinnati Art Museum. Saad has been curating art shows locally and internationally for the past 40 years, including Printed Voices of Mexico, Lebanon, and the Czech Republic. Saad is also editor and publisher of the yearly For a Better World Poems and Drawings on Peace and Justice by Greater Cincinnati artists, now over 20 years old. I will say that after the program today, you might want to go up and see the human rights portfolio that is currently on view in the gallery to the west of the main information desk. And I do want to thank Kristen Spangenberg, our print curator, who is here today for organizing that show. So wave there, Kristen. Thank you very much. Today, Saad will share how he developed the exhibit Printed Voices from India, his most recent international peace and justice project. You'll enjoy hearing stories about the contemporary artist and the messages behind the artworks, which utilize a wide variety of printmaking techniques. The exhibit was on view at the Kennedy Heights Art Center in 2024 with a catalog of all the artworks. I certainly enjoyed the exhibit when I saw it. So now I'm going to step aside, turn you over to Dr. Ghosn.
Well, thank you so much, Helen, and thank you also the Cincinnati Asian Art Society for inviting me to be here and share with you this experience that I had with India and with Indian artists. I should start by saying that I'm far from being an expert of India or of Indian art, but thanks to my connection with my adventure, I should say, in India, I became a lover of the Indian culture, of Indian art, and in particular of the Indian people, whom I found to be very kind, very generous, welcoming, unassuming, humble. I should say that, most of the people that I met have become my very good friends, and I'm very glad and proud to count them as friends. I owe this adventurous...
You can step back a little bit from the microphone.
It is, okay. Sorry for that. It's okay now? Can you hear me? Okay. You know, I think I owe this adventurous experience to one international project of SOS Art, one of the few that, SOS Art has with other countries, and which connects SOS Art with international printmakers mostly, who use their art for peace and justice. SOS Art is a non-profit organization that I founded in 2003, and which has for goal principally to give voice to local artists, primarily, to use their art for peace and justice and to make a difference where they live. But through SOS Art, we developed an international project which is called Voices From, that I will elaborate on. And when they invited me to this talk, Helen Rinsberg and the Cincinnati Art Asian Society asked me to speak a little bit of SOS Art, its activities and its mission, and in particular of this international project that is Voices From, and in particular to connect it with Voices from India, and to go over the logistics of the exhibit, how it came to exist, what was the process, and also to share with you some of the results, some of the art that was exhibited, and tell you about it. So my presentation today will consist of a short introduction to SOS ART, its mission and activities, a short introduction to SOS ART International Biennial Project, which is Voices from Social and Cultural Reflections, and the specific case of Voices from India, Social and Cultural Reflection, that took place in both Cincinnati and Mumbai in 2024 and 2025. I will go over its logistical preparation, the visit to India and meeting with the artists and schools of art to select the prints, the exhibits in Cincinnati. I'll go over the works, the techniques included, the aesthetics, and the content. And I will mention the Indian cultural and movie mini festivals in Cincinnati that accompany usually this particular Voices From exhibit. And finally, I will speak of the exhibit in Mumbai that took place in January 2025. I hope I'll have time to touch base on the human rights portfolio by Indian artists, how it was created and how it was exhibited in Mumbai, and which is a chapter of the portfolio that is right now exhibited here and that Kristen Spangenberg was very kind to show in the gallery here. And also, if I have time, I will touch base on some of the other SOS ART collaborative activities in India between Chennai, Hyderabad, and Baroda. So what is SOS ART? Its history, it was founded in 2003 at the crux of the war on terrorism and the Patriot Act, and it became a non-profit organization in 2015. It began in 2003 as an art exhibit and an art festival with related publications, primarily to give voice to Greater Cincinnati artists on issues of peace and justice at the time, and provide them with a venue to be able to express themselves. With time, however, the mission and the scope of SOS ART enlarged. Now it included much more exhibits, workshops, wider educational programs, expanded publications, and has a greater media presence and a more dynamic public engagement around issues of peace and justice. One part of SOS ART that is very important and particularly to me, and it's very close to my heart, is the expanded activities with children and youth, linking the teaching and practice of art to the introduction and exposure to basic values, since, as we know, or we don't know, most of our basic values are acquired by the age of 7, 8, until the age of 12. And SOS ART really wants to expose the youth to these basic values of peace and justice with the hope that they will espouse them. What is SOS ART's mission? Primarily is to encourage, promote, and provide opportunities and venues for the arts as dynamic vehicles for peace and justice, is to encourage artists to use their art as their voice on issues of peace and justice, to facilitate the creation of a local community of artists who network and collaborate using art as a means to impact issues of peace and justice in the community where they live, use the arts to speak about, inform, educate, and create a dialogue on issues of peace and justice, and through educational activities, use the arts to introduce basic values of peace and justice in children and youth. As you can see, the terms peace and justice keep repeating itself because that's really the focus of SOS ART with all that we do and how we can really use art to this effect. What are the principles of SOS ART? I will go through them very quickly. First of all, it is primarily local. The work is local in order to encourage local artists to use their art where they live in order to make an impact. It is democratic, open equally to all, irrespective of age, gender, background, and so on. It aims at promoting the voice and the message of the artist, not at all the artist's notoriety and or sellability. And in this respect, it's different from other art organizations. And it is money-free, which means that artists do not pay, are not paid, all activities are open and free to the public, publications are given free, And we believe strongly that gratuity is an important value being lost in our society, that it needs to be restored, cultivated, and disseminated, and that reward does not have to be in terms of money, but rather in the joy of giving and sharing. We also believe that money is one of the main reasons for lack of peace and justice in our world. So what are our local activities? There are many. First of all, we have a yearly exhibit and festival of arts focused on peace and justice, open to all Greater Cincinnati artists. We have many publications, more than 60 to date, that deal with peace and justice, including 2 annual books, an SOS Art book and a For a Better World book of poems and drawings. We curate and organize exhibits of local artists and occasionally artists from other countries on themes of peace and justice. We provide educational opportunities through workshops and art classes in schools and after-school programs. We organize panel discussions, public debates, art events, poetry readings, and so on, all on the themes of peace and justice. And here, just to show you one of these activities, this is the yearly SOS Art Community Art Exhibit and Festival that we organize every year. And this year it will take place at the Art Academy, opening on June the 20th, and it will go until July the 13th. It is open to all equally. It is free with no pre-selection. At the opening, we invite all the artists to speak about their work, and we have a get-together potluck. We have a concomitant art festival on issues of peace and justice, and we document all the event by a book that is given free to artists and libraries. So far, I think we are proud to say that you have included more than 4,000 artists, over the years. And this is an example of the books that we publish every year. This is, for instance, the book of 2017. This is the one of 2019. These are, probably 2019, all the artists that have participated. And this is our program for the festival that we had in 2019. That includes all kinds, dance, music, poetry reading, debates, and so on. Now, we do also, every year, we publish a book of poems and drawings on peace and justice by Greater Cincinnati artists that we call For a Better World. And probably many of you here have participated either as poets or as visual artists in these publications. It is open to all Greater Cincinnati poets, irrespective of age, gender, schools. We invite artists to do an illustration. We exhibit the original drawings and poems at one point. We invite the poets to read their poetry at some point. The book is given free to poets, artists, and libraries. And on the average, every year there are 70 poets and 35 visual artists per book. This year will be the 23rd book, and we have included so far more than 700 poets and 550 visual artists. This year's book is in the making right now. We're waiting to get the illustration from the artist, and it is being dedicated to our dear, dear friend, Gary Gaffney, who passed away a month ago, and who was a member of SOS Art board and who was a regular participant. I should say that this year we have 96 poets included in the book and 40 visual artists, and that the book will be exhibited, the original drawings and the poems will be exhibited in June at St. John Unitarian Gallery in Clifton. These are examples of 3 books that were done in the past, and every year we invite an artist to do the illustration. And this is, a good friend printmaker that many of you know who did this one is Jean-Paul Smith. Now, we do very many other exhibits on specific themes of peace and justice throughout the year. And we have our annual USA Mini Prints for Peace and Justice Challenge and Exhibit that will take place at the same time as the main SOS Art exhibit in June and July. We did, for instance, an exhibit and a publication on transgender self-portraits art with responsive poems. We did one on the history of races. We did exhibits on Asian American and Pacific Islanders artists, one on hunger, one on LGBTQ. We did retrospectives and art exhibits in other countries. We do a lot of publications, and here to list some of them, as I mentioned, we have more than 60 publications to date. We have a Greater Cincinnati Artists as Activists book that includes work and the path of more than 50 local activists, artists. We did a regular column in ACAI in the past on art for a better world, including visual artists and poets. We did a book and a column on Greater Cincinnati religious peacemakers. We published a book, The Best Of, in which we selected poems from the first 12 for a better world, and that's the one. And what's interesting about this book is that it is an educational resource that schools can use with their kids, because we created different modules that go along this book for art teachers and other teachers. We did a publication on Inside Out and Affirming Epiphany about the transgender art, the race and the city, about history of racism. And finally, a very important group of work is the creation of a library of comic books, each of them on one theme of peace and justice, and each of them has 2 stories on the same theme. For instance, the theme of compassion, you have 2 stories illustrated by 2 different local artists, and these books are given free to elementary and middle schools with the intent that they will be read by the children, they will be discussed, the theme will be discussed by the teacher, and that it will trigger a creative activity with the kids around these themes. And our educational programs, we give presentations in schools, we invite school participation in SOS Art exhibits and publication, and this year was the 4th dedicated youth SOS Art February 2025, and this is really thanks to Jamie George, who has been the power behind that, and every year we have a specific SOS Art exhibit for youth open to all schools and after school programs in the in Cincinnati. We have developed a value-based curriculum for teaching art, and the one we have is on empathy, compassion, tolerance, equity, equality, freedom. We use the Best Of book, as I just mentioned, as a base. We have thematic modules on discrimination, poverty, homelessness, war violence, non-war violence, environment. And then we have the comic books that I just mentioned, and also we have developed a deck of cards on peacemakers that is still to be, it's completed, but you still have to publish it and give it to schools. SOS Art. SOS Art 10 years ago embarked into one international activity that we called Voices From. And the idea of it was to bring to Cincinnati the voice of artists, printmakers primarily, from another country, where artists use their art also as their message for a better world, for peace and justice. This started with Oaxaca, and we did it 8 years ago, and at that time I created a collaboration with Kennedy Heights Art Center, and we agreed that every 2 years we'll do it with a different country. So we started in Oaxaca, it was followed with Lebanon, Czechia, and now this last year with India, and Kenya is being planned for 2026. The concept is to bring work from artists from a different culture to Cincinnati, to exhibit the work here, in order to expose local artists and the Cincinnati citizens to voices from a different culture who are using their art for peace and justice, but also to expose them to the culture of that country. And we organize at the same time as the exhibit a cultural and a movie festivals about that particular country. And we publish every time a book documenting all the event that is given free to all the participants and all the artists, to all the visitors and all the artists. And we invite, most of the time, artists from that country to give here to Cincinnati to give talks and workshops. So this brings us to Voices from India. You know, as I mentioned, we've been doing this now for 10 years. Oaxaca, Mexico, Lebanon, Czech Republic, and last year it was India. And I want to go over the logistical preparations, why, what were the goals, and how we prepared it. You know, the purpose was obvious. It was really that time to give voice to printmakers from India and share their voice with our local citizens. Now, people would ask, why printmakers? Printmakers for many reasons. Number one, prints is a strong tool to use for peace and justice. It has been really used throughout history as such. The second thing, prints are easy to carry. They are on papers. You don't really need to ship with a lot of expenses. And usually artists are more likely to give you prints than give you an original artwork unless they have really guarantees. So that's why we've used it. And so the logistical goals, the first thing was, well, it's okay, we're going to India, how to contact Indian artists, how to invite them, what will be the procedure. And that's what I do, for every country. So before I do that, I do my homework. I spend time going over the list of artists that I could find and make sure that they do art relating to social justice issues, political issues, cultural issues. I contact them, I send a letter explaining what's behind the exhibit, and at the same time I mention that I'll be coming to the country, and if I have already a schedule, share with them the schedule and the possibility to meet them. So that's what I did, and it was really okay. And when I go there, so I'll contact them, I'll describe the project, I'll arrange to visit their studios to view prints, select and pick some, and I'll return to Cincinnati with the prints for the exhibit. And usually I've been kind of frugal in this way, where I will come back with the prints myself, I'll put them in my luggage, it's easy to travel. I have a limitation as far as size, but I have this into consideration when I prepare the show, bring them here, exhibit them, and return them later. So for India, the question was, this was my first contact with India, and I didn't really know Indian artists. I found a site called IPEP, it's International Print Exchange Program, and the site had on it catalogs from all the past years where they have printmakers from India and the rest of the world have participated in this exchange. And what was really nice about this site is that their catalogs have the names of the artist, works of the artist, statement of the artist, and contact information. So I went through these catalogs over the years. I selected the names that I found were appropriate for such a show, wrote a letter very detailed to give the details about what I was planning on doing, and to give also credibility to the project by sharing previous experiences and telling them I'll be coming at that time. I would like to visit you. If you know of other artists, let me know. If when I come to a big city, if we can really arrange that we meet in a group instead of individual artists, would be great. I prepared all of this, and that's what I did. And actually, I was very lucky because this particular exchange, IPEP, invited me at the same time after I met them to be the curator for the print exchange in 2024, and I was the curator for it, an international print exchange, and I had to determine the theme of the exchange and select the artists who are included. So my visit to India, which places did I decide to visit? Here I had a friend, a very good friend of mine, who's an art historian who lives in Cincinnati and who is on the board of SOS ART. Her name is Vaishnavi Ramanathan. So we sat together, and together we discussed what will be the good places to visit in India for printmaking. And there are few well-known schools. We went through that. After that, I developed my schedule, and I met with Badri Vilambi, who's Vaishnavi's husband, and who helped me very nicely to book my flights, my trains, my hotels. So I wanted really to arrive in India not having to worry about all of this. This was my first trip to India. I knew nothing about India, and everyone was telling me, you're crazy, you're going to India. It's a huge country, it's a scary country, you're going to get sick, you're going to get lost. I said, no, I'm going to go. And that's what I did. And December 12, 2023, I took off to India, and this is my itinerary. I ended in Chennai, spent a few days in Chennai, went to Bengaluru a few days, Mumbai a few days, Baroda a few days, Kolkata a few days, Shantiniketan a few days, returned to Kolkata and to Chennai and to Cincinnati. And just so, I should say already before going on, wherever I went, I visited 7 cities, and I didn't spend a lot of time in all of these cities. And I didn't have time to do a lot of tourism. But, my best tourism was really meeting with the people. And wherever I went, I was very generously welcomed. People opened their studio, their house, met me, arranged to facilitate my trip. And as I mentioned in the beginning, I should say that all the people I met really became my friends, and they are still my friend. And I'm so appreciative of their generous sharing and welcoming. I'm glad to be their friend. Came back with with 268 prints, 210 by 97 established artists, and 58 by 50 students. When I was in India, I visited 5 schools of arts, in Bangalore 2, in Baroda, in Shantiniketan, in Kolkata. And so I came back. I had a lot of slides to share, and I organized it in July and August 2024 in 2 locations, Kennedy Height Art Center and Off Ludlow Gallery, due to the number of slides. Off Ludlow Gallery was dedicated to the students' art, Kennedy Height Art Center to the established artists. I invited 2 Indian visiting artists, Anant and Shilpa Nikam, who also gave workshop at Tiger Lily Print. We gave guided tours of the exhibit. And the work selected, so you asked me how did I select the work. Already going there, I knew what I wanted. I wanted work that reflected the social and cultural reality of the artist, and of course, a certain aesthetic, which was really in tune with my approach to aesthetics, and a technique that will be a strong technique. So selected it based on the technique, aesthetics, content, social and cultural. The printmaking techniques, here, in the show that you're going to see, all techniques were represented. And I should say that the Indian artists are very, very skilled, have very strong techniques, have all received a very good training. And I was amazed at their prowess, their technical prowess. They use all techniques of printmaking: intaglio, relief, lithography, silkscreen, and monoprints. And here, just very quick, kind of like definition of what it is. Intaglio, it's when you incise an image into a surface, and usually it's a metal surface or it's an acrylic surface. And the incised line, the line that you incise, or the sunken area, holds the ink. So the image that you engrave in metal or in a plastic, then you fill it with ink and you print it. And the different techniques of intaglio are etching and viscosity etching. I will say a word about this one: aquatint, dry point, mezzotint, and engraving. The relief print is the opposite of intaglio. It is when the image carved into a surface and not carved surface. Okay, you carve the image into a surface, for instance wood, and the part that you did not carve, therefore the relief part, the surface of it, is the one that holds the ink. And this will be done on wood, linoleum, MDF of Corex. Think of this like a stamp printing. If you have a stamp, it's the part that you print is the surface of your stamp mold, which holds the ink. But what's underneath it doesn't hold the ink. Lithography, it is where it's like a drawing in a way. You can do it on a stone or on a plate, and the principle is that water and oil do not mix up, and therefore you can obtain images like that. Silkscreen is a process in which you have a design on your screen, you block the non-designed parts, so they will not let ink go through, and you force ink through a mesh screen onto a surface where the design is. And the monoprint is where you ink a certain surface and you print it right away. Now, there is a special case of viscosity etching because it's very frequently used in India. It's a multicolor using single plate, relying on viscosity of ink, also on depth of etching. If you want to do a regular etching, on a plate, and if you want to have several colors, in the past and until now, people will use several plates, one for each color. Now, this technique was discovered in 1920 by Stanley William Hayter, who had at that time Krishna Reddy from India visiting his studio, and together at Atelier 17 in Paris, they created this technique, and it used both a combination of intaglio and relief when you print the plate. If you would like more explanation about the technical, we can discuss it later. Okay. The aesthetics, you're going to notice that for the majority, it relates to India, majority of the ones, often including cultural and mythological references, but some with a more modern, contemporary feel. And also, I should say that it's probably because also of me, of my selection, how I went one way or the other. Now, the content. The majority of the work selected reflect Indian cultural background and heritage. They also communicate a personal, social, or political message. The prints address in general identity, environmental concerns, social justice, globalization, to mention few. And some of the specific recurring themes that I will show you in prints are the following. For instance, many works were relating to the COVID. It was right after the COVID and all the effect of the COVID that it has socially, personally on the culture, personal, economic, social, and political burden of the COVID pandemic. The traditional farming, which is really a very important issue right now in India, where traditional farming is disappearing in favor of industrial agriculture or just disappearing for urbanization. Migration from rural settings to large cities, the associated problems, impacting effects on the individual. The various means of daily transportation in a large crowded country and their social impact on the traveler. Nostalgic return to old family crafts currently being replaced by technologically modernized methods and urbanization of the country. All of these were represented, and I'm mentioning them because I'm going to show you some pictures that relate to those. This is the first one, and it is from an artist from Shantiniketan, and it is called Adieu, and it's really about the COVID. And what he did in a very elegant piece, representing the COVID and what it went. And when I first looked at this one, and maybe you do too the same, you look at the background and it looks like funerary steels, like it was in a cemetery. In reality, yes, it is, but these in the background are oxygen cylinders, because in India during the pandemic, oxygen cylinders were lacking and many people died because of that. And this is a woodcut. So in the woodcut, whatever is black is the part that has not been carved, and whatever is white is the part that has been carved. And that's why we call it relief print, because it's the surface of the plate that is printed. You want to oppose this to this one, which is from an artist from Baroda, and it's called COVID-19 Massacre. And this artist used etching and aquatint, both intaglio processes, in order to represent the massacre that was caused during COVID-19. And because people then did not really know what to do, in this particular case, he was really presenting someone waiting as cremation became very, very short. People could not really go to crematory places, and they had to live with their dead people for a long time. It's a beautiful image, and in the background, it's a city of Banaras that he represented. And this is an etching, and here, all the black that you see is caused by the process of aquatint, which is one thing that gives a tone to the plate, and the white part are the part that have not been, affected by the drawings, by the image. This one is a beautiful one. It's a lithography, and this is an image on a stone. It's also by an artist from Baroda, and he was reflecting here how people were scared and they didn't know what to do, didn't know where to go. They were here, all of them. There were no transportation. You have only these two buses for all of these people trying to fight, not knowing where to hide, not knowing where to go. And this one, which is really a beautiful woodcut print, it's a colored woodcut print, a reduction technique woodcut print, printed on a different background, and it's the hardship that people faced walking back home with no means of transportation, and it's from an artist from Mumbai. And really I like in what this artist did is including the child touch to the drawing, saying that how much children were also affected and lost and how many things they left behind. Now, this series here is going to show about the farming and the problem of the farming that happens in, the topic of farming in India. This artist from Mumbai, in a very elegant image, contemporary image, I was very attracted to it. It's also an etching, colored etching, and she called it Journey of Seed. And she did it because she belongs to a family of farmers, and she felt that the farmers were less and less respected, more and more denigrated and denied, and she wanted to say that we need to show respect to the farmers who provide food despite adverse conditions and protect nature from devastating factors. And this will be, how her seed will travel and give life. This one is a very elegant piece. It's an etching, and it's also by an artist from Baroda called Rottenness Covered with Beauty. It's interesting because, metaphorically it can allude to many things. It can allude to the political situation in India, to the politicians. But for this particular artist, who is also a farmer, it was really relating to the struggle that tenant farmers have facing landlords, nature, and the economic decisions of the state. So finally, how you have here the ugly eagle, this destroying what's left, and rottenness covered with beauty. Yeah. And this one is also the same thing. It's from an artist from Baroda, where he addresses the transformation of family, farmland, and identity, transitioning to a post-agrarian nation. And here you see this farm with all the shoes of all the farmers, of all the people that are left there. Where would they migrate? Where would they go? And this is being destroyed and replaced by the monsters' high-rises. The Cincinnati Museum, thanks to Kristen and Ainsley, purchased this particular print, and it's by an artist from Mumbai who represents Lakshmi, and for him Lakshmi is the mother of every house in the village, struggling to keep the house, the child, and the land alive. And here you can really see Lakshmi at the same time kind of like bound, but trying to give life to the crop. And this is a beautiful one, actually. It's really by a student from Baroda also, and it's about the nostalgia of his village and its peace and beauty being destroyed and replaced. And he represented what he remembered of his village at the sunset, and how the beauty and the harmony that he found, but also that was being replaced. Now, we're speaking about migration, the migratory thing. This one is by Shilpa Nikam, and also thanks Kristen and Ainsley for purchasing this piece by Shilpa. Shilpa is primarily a painter, but she did this beautiful print. She went back to her village of origin to track back the migration of her parents. Her parents grew up in a village of fishermen, but then had to come to the big city, Mumbai, and she wanted really to know that. And she went there and she did a whole series on the migration. And this is massive migration to cities, empathy with migrant population of the world. When she did it, this was her statement. This one is also the migration, but this one, in a very touching way, is by a student who came to Baroda and reflecting the unfavorable conditions living as a migrant student in a new faraway city. This guy came from a farming village, came to a city, knew nothing, didn't have money, and have to rent a place wherever he could find, didn't have any furniture. And I remember when he showed me this, I had boom, it went to my heart, because in the first one, I told him, what is this? In the first one, he said he went to the owner of the house and he calls him uncle, and he didn't have a chair. He asked him, uncle, can I have your chair? And the uncle told them, yes, you can have it. And he told me, I was so happy. I went and I did this. These two here say, now the share is mine as long as I can live here. And just really to put you in touch with the reality of the people over there who, despite all of these difficult conditions, are do marvelous things, are still wonderful human beings with their heart. This is the same thing. This is from another student from Kolkata who again had to move to a place, and here the place where he has, the sink was broken, there was nothing where he could live, but then he saw plants growing in the sink that he couldn't really use to wash himself, but for him it was a sign of hope and for the future. This is also, it's about commuting, and this is a student from Kolkata who every single day had to travel by train 3 to 4 hours to come to school because he couldn't really live in a city. And he was saying that finally the bunkers in the train become part of their life because, this is a place where you put your stuff, you socialize with others, you live in it every day, and that's what he did here in this particular one. This is the bunker in a train, and he used viscosity etching to represent it. And this is again the same thing as, the difficult condition for many people. This is a student from Kolkata where with I don't know how many members of their family, they share just 2 rooms where they live. Probably there are 10 or 15. And she was saying that, well, whatever you can, your belongings stop being your belongings. They belong to everyone and they occupy all your space all the time. You don't have a space, but then you learn how to live in it. Now I want to go through this series, and this series is about the crafts that people have and how many of them reflected their connection to the craft, and how the crafts they lived with their family became part of their life, but they can see them also disappearing and how it can hurt. This particular one, a great artist, I was very drawn to his work. He's from Mumbai, and he belongs to a family, and actually the village, where they do a lot of seamstressing and stitching. And in this particular one, it's really about personal issues. This one, the role of women, in India. And this is a very powerful piece. And this is called Saudagar. Saudagar in Indian means a businessman or a trader. And for women, frequently marriage is like a trade. It's like a business, where the man comes with all of his power, makes a deal, and that's it. And as you can see, the woman is divided in half. Where does she fit? Where does she go? This other one is very, very touching. It's really by a student from Shantiniketan who represented here her mother's suitcase. And it seemed that one of the traditions in Indian culture for women who get married is really to have a suitcase with them when they get married. In their suitcase, they put some of their belongings, but they keep that suitcase throughout their life. And they share it, once a year with their kids. They keep memories. And this artist was saying how this suitcase was a connection between her and her mother, and how every single year they will open it. She has her own dolls in it, her own stories, her mother's stories, and with the implication that one day this will accompany herself on her journey of matrimony. Now here, I'm going to address here some personal issues that were also discussed. This is a faculty member from Baroda who is dark-skinned, and I was not really aware that in India there was discrimination according to the color of his skin. And Durga Prasad was a great guy. Many of his work was about being discriminated against because of his dark skin. And in this one, it's kind of like the story is very nice. It's really about the story that says, if you see a dark cat going in front of you, don't follow, don't take this path because it's a bad omen. And you will say, poor cat, look how cute it is. Why would it be a bad omen for me? And reflecting to himself. It's a beautiful one. This one is also about really a personal issue. It's about the gender identity. And I was really kind of very touched by the courage of this particular student in Shantiniketan, who represented a print about himself, his identity as a woman and how he's been really working on it. And actually, I went to Shantiniketan this year and I saw more of his work along the same line. Very, very powerful work. This is also a personal one. This is a student who's dealing with Wilson's disease, which is a copper accumulation genetic disease in the liver and affects the liver, the brain, and so on. And he's been very affected by it, but now he's being cured. And he was saying, not really cured, but improved. And he was saying that the paper, the art, was curing him. And he said, hello, I am paper, should be paper. I will absorb all your pain. Hey, champ, make use of me. And then a lot of his work was really about his art as being a therapeutic tool for him to cure. And this one also is kind of like reflect the reality of these people. This was of a student from Bangalore. And this student, worked in the day, and the only time he could come to school, it was in the evening. And he liked to work outside, but he couldn't work outside because of the number of mosquitoes that will be, assailing him. And he did this one, and he said, every time I'll go out, I want to find a place I couldn't. And finally, he found a solution to protect himself from mosquitoes and to be able to create. This is another also personal issue. It's about a great artist, Atanu Bakshi, Shamjarkand, where it's a city which has a lot of coal miners. And he reflected his family and also the issues that coal miners go through. This is by a student from Baroda, and it's about urbanization and how it's destroying, not only the architectural heritage, but the history and all heritage of the city. This one is about the class system. This artist, very interestingly, did this etching in which he represents different garments and also a chimp. And his point is that we frequently use our dress to position ourselves. What would the chimp think about that? He who doesn't have any dress, what would it be? Would this one be better for him than that? It was really a reflection on class system, but also on the caste system in India. This one, could be done in the United States. It's blindly following a leader, and this is, a political statement by a student from Shantiniketan about how if you follow blindly a leader, you become like ghosts, you become skeleton-like. And this one is by an artist from Shantiniketan, and also thanks to Kristen and Ansley for acquiring this print. It's a student who kind of like question about the technologically improved world and what, despite all of this, we're at loss. We're destroying our heritage, we're destroying our culture, and we live in an imbroglio. And this is the last picture I will show you. It's a very beautiful print. It's an etching and aquatin by a great artist from Baroda. His name is Durgadas Garai. And this was really about the Bhopal gas leak tragedy of December 3, 1984. I really find this image very striking, very emotional, and it's a beautiful piece. Okay, well, this was the exhibit. So we did the exhibit here in Cincinnati, but connected to the exhibit, we had a cultural festival and a movie festival. And the cultural festival, the purpose of it was to expose the Cincinnati citizens to the Indian culture and bridge the gap between our culture and their culture. It was at Kennedy Heights Art Center. We have it half a day in August, and we included Indian music, sitar, tabla, Hawaiian guitar, Indian dance, classical and Bollywood songs, Indian poetry, classical and contemporary, Indian arts and crafts, and Indian food. And we have other activities: poetry writing, relief printing, jelly plate monoprinting, drawing, guided tours of the exhibit. And thank you to Jamie Shoj, who shared with the participant jelly plate monoprinting. Thank you, Jamie. It was a great festival. All the artists who participated were local. It allowed me to really connect and meet many local artists, be them dancers, musicians, poets, and to have a big cultural reunion. It was very convivial. It was a beautiful afternoon, and everyone was happy. And not only that, but the touch of the Indian culture, I think, stays with each of us. This was the Indian movie mini festival, the same reason, cultural exposure, bridging the gap. We did it at the Esquire in 3 different times. We had short and long documentaries followed by discussion. The short, we did 2 shorts by a Chennai artist. Okay, her name is Geeta Hudson, and we did 1 on the story of yoga by a local artist, Dr. Kanikeswaran, and we had 3 longs. The Seeds of Vandana Shiva, the life story of Gandhian eco-activist Dr. Vandana Shiva, who fought and successfully against industrial agriculture. The Price of Free, it's a documentary on the fight against child labor by Nobel Peace Laureate Kailash Satyarthi. And Awake, the life of Yogananda. It's about Hindu mystic Paramahansa Yogananda, who brought yoga and meditation to the West in 1920. And what really was beautiful about this movie is really to show the unity of spirituality, that, you know, be it yoga, be it Hinduism, be it Christianity, that we're all connected through the universe by the spirituality of the universe. It was a beautiful movie. The Oaxaca artist, this is the piece by the Cincinnati artist. These Oaxaca and Cincinnati are exhibited right now at the entrance gallery, and Helen earlier just mentioned them. Please stop by to look at them if you haven't yet. And it was fascinating to look at them, to see, you know, by adding this component, the cultural communication between all of them. I just picked one example to show you, and then, for instance, this one, The Right to a Home. So when you look at The Right to a Home, I remember this was the one by Kate Rockamp in Cincinnati. When I got it, I asked Kate, what does this have to do with a right to a home? And Kate told me, well, you know, this is the Jaguar, and in the background is the wall that Trump is building between America and Mexico. And because of this wall, the Jaguar cannot cross anymore and is losing its habitat and is endangered, you know, as a survival. So kind of like this was very interesting as a perspective from a person from Cincinnati looking at the right to a home. Now, this excellent artist from Oaxaca, Cesar Chavez, for him, it was really just the idea of having a home, having a place where you can really go. So I found this, and if you go, you see, this is in all of them, this very strong cultural perspective and dialogue between the artists through the images. And my hope is really to increase this, to add to it voices from Lebanon, with whom I worked, voices from Czech Republic, voices from Kenya, and hopefully with many other countries. And to close, you know, what are the SOS ART collaborative activities in India that will keep, you know, this relationship going? One thing is in Chennai. I mentioned to you the library of comics on peace and justice that we're creating for kids. We have already 9 books printed. We have 6 more that will be printed in the coming months. And all of these, each of them address one theme of peace and justice. We would like to include them in the curriculum of schools so kids could really learn about the topic, enjoy the art, enjoy the stories, and create their own story as a reflection. And by doing this, integrate the value, personalize it in themselves. And one artist from Chennai came to Cincinnati Art to do a portfolio of stone lithography print on a theme of peace and justice involving Indian artists, and we're working on it. And finally, in Hyderabad, and this is thanks to Rishi's mother, Padma, and her father and her husband, we may be collaborating with Young in Voice International, which is a non-profit that Padma's father, Rishi's grandfather, has started to empower kids, you know, with art. And we're planning on, you know, doing collaborative work, exhibits, and also possibly use of comic books. I think this is really my presentation. Thank you so much. I know probably it was boring, but for me it was very important to share it. I cannot say how much I've been moved and touched and changed, I think, by my experience in India, by all the people I met, their kindness, their generosity, the beautiful culture. It's a culture of tolerance. It's a culture of openness. It's a culture where spirituality, religion, whatever you are, is lived at a daily moment. It's not really religion you do one day a week or part of it. You live it. If you take any cab in India, wherever you go, you have, you know, in front, you know, where the car is, you have an altar for a Hindu god or another person that they cherish, and people respect it. I stayed with a Hindu friend, and every morning, you know, he will go and get fresh flowers, and he will put them. He has a temple in his house. He will put them there. He will go and, you know, put some incense, bless. I was so much touched by the fact that religion, spirituality is no more a void word. It's really part of your daily life. And with tolerance, people tolerate who you are. People never say, you will go to an area or see an altar for a Hindu goddess, right next to a shrine for a Virgin Mary, and right next to a place for a Muslim god. It was really wonderful, and with no animosity, no territoriality. Thank you. I hope we'll all become Indian. Thank you so much.